Dr. Min-jun Park stared at the emergency message on his desk screen. The words made his stomach drop. The Galactic Council wanted him on Nexus Prime immediately. Not next week. Not tomorrow. Now. He pushed back his chair and walked to the window of his office in Seoul. Earth looked peaceful from the orbital research station. Blue oceans sparkled under white clouds. It was hard to believe something had scared the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Sir? Commander So-young Kim stepped into his office. Her face showed worry. The transport is ready. Captain Lee is waiting. Min-jun nodded. Any idea what this is about? So-young shook her head. Ambassador Choi sent only basic details. The Council detected strange energy readings from our solar system. They want answers. What did all see? They walked through the station corridors toward the docking bay. Other scientists stopped their work to watch them pass. Everyone knew something big was happening. The last time the Council called an emergency meeting, 2 star systems had gone to war. Captain Jae-ho Lee stood beside their ship, the Soul's Promise. The vessel was small but fast. It could make the journey to Nexus Prime in 3 days, instead of the usual week. Ready to go, Dr. Park? Lee asked. His hand rested on his weapon. That worried Min-jun. Lee only touched his gun when he expected trouble. They boarded the ship. Min-jun settled into his seat as the engines started. Through the window, he watched Earth grow smaller. He wondered if he would see his home again. And Winjin. Butteranjin. Dr. Park, So-young said, looking at her tablet. I've been reviewing our recent projects. Nothing should have caused alarm. Min-jun thought about their work. The healing project on Earth was going well. They had cleaned most of the old radiation damage from the early nuclear age. The colony worlds were thriving. Everything seemed normal. Maybe it's not what we did, Lee said from the pilot's seat. That made Min-jun pause. Human technology had always been different. Other species used force and power. They broke things apart to understand them. Humans had learned to work with nature instead of fighting it. 3 days later, they reached Nexus Prime. The massive space station looked like a metal city floating in space. Ships from dozens of worlds surrounded it. But something was wrong. Military vessels outnumbered the usual diplomatic craft. That's a lot of firepower, Lee muttered. Their ship docked at the human section. Ambassador Hyun-woo Choi waited for them. His usually calm face showed strain. Min-jun, thank you for coming quickly, Choi said. We have a serious problem. They walked through the station's corridors. Other species moved aside as they passed. Some watched with fear. Others showed anger. A few looked curious. What exactly did we do? Min-jun asked. That's what we need to find out, Choi replied. Every major civilization detected the same thing. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Reality distortions around Earth. The readings suggest we're using technology that breaks the laws of physics. They entered a conference room near the main chambers. Choi activated a holographic display. Charts and graphs filled the air around them. Look at these numbers, Choi said. Energy output exceeding stellar fusion. Matter existing in impossible states. Gravitational waves moving faster than light. Min-jun studied the data. It looked wrong, but he recognized patterns from their recent work. What healing project? Choi asked. Min-jun explained their efforts to repair Earth's environment. They had been removing radiation, cleaning polluted areas, and restoring damaged ecosystems. It was delicate work that required new approaches. We developed techniques that work with natural systems instead of forcing changes, Min-jun said. It's more efficient and causes less damage. So-young added more details. We learned to ask the environment to help instead of making it obey. The results were much better than traditional methods. Choi stared at them. You're talking about your technology like it's alive? Maybe it is, Min-jun said quietly. Before Choi could respond, an announcement echoed through the station. The council session was beginning. All representatives needed to report to the main chambers immediately. They walked through the station's central area. The main chambers could hold thousands of beings. Representatives from every known civilization gathered in the vast space. The air hummed with different languages, energy fields, and telepathic communications. Minjun had never seen so many species in one place. The energy-based Luxarians floated near the ceiling, their forms crackling with power. The hive mind collective moved as one unit, thousands of individuals acting with single purpose. Machine race synthetics stood in perfect formation, their metal bodies gleaming. The psychic ethereals drifted silently, their thoughts touching every mind in the room. As they took their seats in the human section, Minjun noticed the tension. These were beings who had conquered star systems. They had mastered forces that could destroy planets. Yet they looked afraid. A voice boomed across the chamber. Prime Velnath rose from the Luxarian section. Her energy form pulsed brighter as she spoke. "This emergency session addresses a threat to galactic stability," she announced. "The human species has deployed technology that violates fundamental laws of reality." The chamber fell silent. Minjun felt thousands of eyes turn toward the human section. His mouth went dry. "Evidence will be presented," Velnath continued. "Representatives will speak. The humans will answer for their actions." She paused, and her energy form flared. "The universe itself may be at risk." Minjun looked at his companions. So Young's face had gone pale. Lee's hand moved to his weapon again. Ambassador Choi straightened in his seat, preparing to defend his species. The session was about to begin. Minjun knew that everything they said in the next few hours would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. He thought about Earth, peaceful and blue in space. He thought about their healing work and the joy of watching damaged ecosystems come back to life. He had no idea how to explain that joy to beings who saw the universe as something to conquer. The first speaker stood up. The trial of humanity was beginning. Prime Velnath's energy form brightened as she began the formal accusation. The massive holographic displays around the chamber came to life, showing data that made Minjun's heart sink. "Behold the evidence," Velnath announced. "These readings were detected 3 months ago in the Sol system." The first display showed space around Earth. But it looked wrong. Ripples of distorted reality spread outward from the planet like waves in water. The readings indicated massive energy releases that should have torn the solar system apart. "These distortions suggest technology operating beyond known physics," Velnath continued. "Energy that appears from nothing. Matter that exists in multiple states simultaneously. Forces that our greatest scientists cannot explain." Minjun watched the data scroll past. He recognized some patterns from their environmental work, but the readings looked impossible. How could cleaning radiation produce such massive effects? Collective Speaker Unit 7749 rose next. The collective being's thousands of voices spoke as one. "Our monitoring stations record reality experiencing disruptions," the speaker announced. "Space-time hiccups around human worlds. Our collective consciousness felt pain as the universe itself seemed to cry out." The collective's data was even more disturbing. Their deep space sensors had recorded moments when the laws of physics simply stopped working near Earth. For brief periods, energy had flowed backward. Gravity had pushed instead of pulled. Light had moved in curves that made no sense. "We felt the universe bleeding," Unit 7749 said. And thousands of voices spoke the words together. "Something in human space wounds reality itself." Logic Core Omega Prime of the synthetics took the platform next. The machine being's calculations appeared as streams of numbers in the air. "Mathematical analysis proves impossibility," Omega Prime stated. "Observed energy output exceeds input by factors of 10,000 to 1. Conservation laws violated repeatedly." Conclusion: humans possess reality-altering technology. Minjun tried to follow the equations, but they described energy appearing from nowhere. The math showed reactions that should require the power of stars, but were happening on Earth's surface with no fuel source. The most frightening testimony came from ethereal mind singer HFY. The psychic being's thoughts touched every mind in the chamber as she spoke. "We perceive higher dimensions," HFY said, her voice like wind through crystal. "Around human worlds, we sense wounds in existence itself, tears in the fabric of reality that pulse with alien mathematics we cannot comprehend." Her psychic projections showed the chamber what her people could see. Reality around Earth looked like damaged cloth, with holes and tears that led to places that shouldn't exist. Strange energies flowed through these wounds, following patterns that hurt to contemplate. "The humans have broken something fundamental," HFY continued. "Their technology operates through methods that should not be possible. They have found ways to make the universe forget its own rules." More species added their evidence. The aquatic collective showed gravitational waves that moved faster than light. The silicon quartz presented matter that appeared and disappeared without energy exchange. The mountain clan described mining equipment that worked better near human colonies for no apparent reason. Each piece of evidence painted humanity as dangerous newcomers who played with forces they didn't understand. The accumulated data suggested humans had discovered something that threatened the stability of reality itself. Prime Velnath's form flared as she delivered the final accusation. "The human species has demonstrated either complete recklessness or deliberate malice," she announced. "They deploy technology that wounds the universe. They violate laws that have governed reality since the beginning of time." The chamber erupted in discussions. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found common ground in their fear of humanity. Calls for action grew louder. "Immediate technological inspection," demanded the Kresh Dominion's war leader. "Complete quarantine until safety is proven," suggested the Trade Federation's representative. "Preemptive strikes before they destroy everything," growled the Predator Alliance's speaker. Min Jun tried to stand, but Velnath's voice cut through the chaos. "The humans will explain their actions," she declared. "But first, let all understand the gravity of this situation." She gestured, and new displays showed theoretical projections. If human technology continued to violate physical laws, the effects could spread. Reality distortions might grow larger. The wounds in space-time could become permanent. In the worst-case scenarios, the universe itself might unravel. "We face potential extinction," Velnath said quietly. "Not from war or disaster, but from the collapse of existence itself." The chamber fell silent. Species that had survived stellar wars and cosmic catastrophes now faced something worse. The possibility that reality might simply stop working. Ambassador Choi finally stood. "The human delegation requests permission to respond to these accusations." "You will have 6 hours to prepare," Velnath announced. "Consult with your homeworld, gather your explanations. But know this: humanity must submit to complete technological inspection or face immediate quarantine from galactic civilization." Some species called for harsher measures, but Velnath's decision stood. 6 hours to prepare a defense against charges that could end human participation in galactic society. As the session ended, Min Jun noticed something that chilled him more than the accusations. In the eyes of beings who had conquered galaxies and mastered forces beyond imagination, he saw genuine terror. These species had faced every challenge the universe could offer. They had survived cosmic disasters and fought impossible wars. But now, they looked at humans with the same fear primitive beings might show when facing gods. They left the chamber in silence. The corridor outside buzzed with activity as representatives huddled in urgent discussions. Min Jun caught fragments of conversations in dozens of languages. But the message was always the same. Humanity had discovered something that scared the galaxy's greatest powers. 6 hours, So Young said quietly as they reached their ship. Enough time to contact Earth, Choi replied. Min-jun nodded, but his mind was racing. How could they explain technology that even they didn't fully understand? How could they prove they weren't threatening the universe when the evidence suggested they might be doing exactly that? As they prepared to contact Earth, Min-jun realized that humanity's future in the galaxy depended on the next few hours. The trial was just beginning. Back aboard the Soul's Promise, Min-jun activated the quantum communication system. The signal would take precious minutes to reach Earth, but they needed answers fast. Ambassador Choi paced the small cabin while So-young and Captain Lee monitored for eavesdropping attempts. The holographic display flickered to life. President Jin A-yoon appeared first, her face showing concern. Beside her stood Dr. Sung-ho Kwon, director of the Theoretical Physics Institute. Min-jun had worked with both of them for years, but he had never seen them look so worried. Min-jun, we received word about the council session, President Yoon said. How serious is the situation? Very serious, Min-jun replied. They're accusing us of breaking reality itself. The evidence they showed suggests our technology violates fundamental physics. We need to know what's really happening with our projects. Dr. Kwon leaned forward. We've been expecting this moment for 3 years, ever since we made the breakthrough. What breakthrough? Ambassador Choi asked. President Yoon and Dr. Kwon exchanged glances. It's time to tell them everything, the president said. Dr. Kwon began explaining. 3 years ago, our research team achieved something unprecedented. But it wasn't through advanced machines or powerful energy sources. We discovered a completely different approach to understanding reality itself. He activated his own displays, showing equations that looked strange to Min-jun. They seemed to include variables for things like intention and harmony alongside traditional physics. Other species see the universe as a machine to be controlled, Dr. Kwon continued. They apply force to bend natural laws to their will. Humans stumbled onto something entirely different. Which is? Min-jun asked. Cooperative physics, Doctor, Kwon said. We learned that reality isn't fixed. It's a collaborative system that responds to intention and harmony. The universe wants to work with us, not against us. So-young stared at the display. You're saying the universe is alive? Not alive in the biological sense, Dr. Kwon replied, but responsive. Willing to bend its own rules, if we approach it correctly. The key is cooperation, instead of domination. President Yoon added more details. The discovery came from Dr. Hae-jin Na's work on consciousness and quantum mechanics. She realized that the observer effect in quantum physics wasn't a limitation. It was an invitation. Min-jun tried to understand. An invitation to what? To work together, Doctor, Kwon said. When we stopped trying to force the universe to obey us and started asking for cooperation, everything changed. We could achieve results that seemed impossible, because reality itself was helping. The president showed new data from Earth's healing projects. The radiation cleanup that triggered the council's alarm wasn't done with traditional technology. We asked the damaged areas to heal themselves. We offered our energy and intention as partnership, not command. The universe responded, Doctor, Kwon continued. Radiation that should have taken centuries to decay disappeared in months. Polluted ecosystems restored themselves. Damaged landscapes healed faster than our best models predicted. Min-jun began to see the pattern. That's why the energy readings looked impossible. The power wasn't coming from our machines. Exactly, Dr. Kwon confirmed. Our devices don't generate energy. They invite the universe to provide what we need. Conservation laws aren't being broken. The universe is willingly contributing resources from dimensions other species can't perceive. Ambassador Choi looked stunned. Why didn't anyone tell the diplomatic corps about this? President Yoon's expression grew serious. Because we knew how other species would react. Their entire philosophy is based on conquest and control. They see cooperation as weakness. They would never understand technology based on harmony. The readings that scared the council show successful partnerships with reality, Dr. Quan explained. But to species that only know how to dominate, it looks like we're breaking fundamental laws. So Young asked the crucial question. Are we dangerous? Could our technology actually damage the universe? Dr. Quan shook his head. Impossible. Cooperative physics can only work when both partners benefit. The universe wouldn't cooperate with anything that could harm it. The healing we've accomplished proves our methods strengthen reality instead of weakening it. Then why do the sensors show wounds in space-time? Minjun asked. Because that's how other species perceive cooperation, President Yoon replied. Their instruments are designed to detect force and resistance. When they encounter harmony instead, their readings show impossible results. Dr. Quan activated another display. Imagine trying to measure love with a thermometer. The readings would seem wrong because you're using the wrong tool. Other species are measuring cooperative physics with instruments designed for dominance physics. Minjun understood now. The tears in reality that the ethereals described aren't wounds. They're doorways. Exactly, Dr. Quan confirmed. Openings where the universe invites deeper cooperation. To psychic beings trained to see conflict and resistance, these invitations look like damage. President Yoon leaned forward. Minjun, you need to understand something important. We're not just defending our technology. We're defending a completely different way of existing in the universe. What do you mean? If the galaxy accepts that cooperation is possible, everything changes, she explained. Wars become unnecessary when you can work with reality to provide abundance for everyone. Conquest becomes pointless when partnership offers better results. Dr. Quan added. But that threatens every power structure in the galaxy. Species that built their strength on domination would lose their advantages. Minjun realized the true scope of their situation. This isn't just about our technology. It's about challenging the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. The Council isn't just afraid of our machines, President Yoon confirmed. They're afraid of what our success implies, about their own limitations. Get it automatic latiprodes. Ambassador Choi had been quiet during the explanation. Now he spoke. What do we do? We have less than 5 hours to prepare a response. Minjun thought about the evidence he'd seen. The readings that proved their technology worked. The fear in the eyes of beings who had mastered galaxies. The possibility that humanity had discovered something that could transform how every species related to the universe. We show them, Minjun said finally. We demonstrate cooperative physics in a way they can't deny. That's incredibly risky, President Yoon warned. If they see it as an attack, it's riskier to keep hiding, Minjun replied. They're already talking about quarantine or worse. If we're going to change their minds, we need to help them understand what cooperation really means. Dr. Quan nodded slowly. I'll prepare the demonstration device, something simple but undeniable. As the call ended, Minjun looked at his companions. They were about to reveal humanity's greatest secret to beings who might see it as their greatest threat. But maybe, just maybe, they could show the galaxy that there was a better way than endless conflict and domination. Minjun walked back into the council chambers, carrying a small crystalline device. It looked simple, no bigger than his hand, with a gentle blue glow from within. The assembled representatives watched with suspicion as he approached the speaking platform. Security forces from multiple species had their weapons ready. Energy shields flickered around the more nervous delegations. Everyone expected a demonstration of the terrifying technology that had brought them here. Minjun set the device gently on the platform and stepped back. Honored representatives, he began, you have seen evidence of what you call impossible technology. Today, I will show you the truth. The device activated with a soft chime that somehow filled the vast chamber perfectly. Instead of projecting force or displaying power, it began to sing. Not with sound, but with harmony that touched something deeper than hearing. "You see the universe as a machine to be controlled," Minjun said, as the device's gentle resonance spread through the chamber. "We learned to see it as a friend, to be understood." The effect started small. Damaged tiles in the ancient chamber floor began to repair themselves, cracks sealing with tiny sparkles of light. Atmospheric processors that had struggled for decades suddenly hummed with perfect efficiency. Most remarkably, translation systems throughout the chamber improved instantly, allowing every species to understand not just words but intentions. Collective Speaker Unit 7749 gasped as something impossible happened. For the first time in their species' history, the collective experienced individuality within unity. Each voice in the thousands-strong collective remained connected but gained personal perspective. "This is new," Unit 7749 whispered, and for the first time, each voice spoke slightly different words while maintaining harmony. Logic Core Omega Prime of the synthetics processed data at speeds that should have overloaded their circuits. But instead of burning out, the machine being felt something unprecedented. Intuition, enhancing logic instead of opposing it. Processing parameters expanding beyond known limits, Omega Prime announced, wonder creeping into their mechanical voice. Logic and intuition operating in harmony. This should not be possible. The most dramatic change affected ethereal mind singer Zephyrhigh. Her psychic abilities, which had always shown her the conflicts and wounds in reality, suddenly revealed something beautiful. The universe was singing. "I see," she whispered, her mental voice touching every mind in the chamber. "The tears I perceived were not wounds. They were invitations. The universe has been trying to communicate with us for millennia." The device reached full activation, and the entire chamber began to resonate with cooperative physics. Every representative could suddenly sense what humans had learned to perceive. Reality as a living, responsive entity that desired collaboration and growth, not conquest and exploitation. The aquatic collective's delegate found their breathing apparatus working perfectly for the first time in years. The Silicon Quartz representative discovered their quantum calculations becoming elegant instead of brutally complex. Even the warlike Predator Alliance felt something new. The possibility of strength through protection instead of destruction. Prime Velnoth's energy form pulsed in patterns she had never experienced before. Her people had mastered energy for millions of years, but this was different. This energy wanted to work with her instead of being forced into submission. "How long have you known?" she asked, her voice filled with awe instead of accusation. "How long have you known that the universe was alive?" The chamber waited for Minjun's answer. The question carried weight beyond its words. If humans had discovered this truth recently, they might share it. If they had known for ages and hidden it, the implications were more complex. "We didn't discover it, Velnath," Minjun replied. "We just finally learned to listen." The response sent waves of understanding through the chamber. Humans hadn't conquered reality or broken its laws. They had simply developed the ability to hear its voice. "Our species developed through cooperation," Minjun continued as the device maintained its gentle influence. "We survived by working together, by understanding emotions, by finding harmony with our environment. These traits prepared us to recognize the universe's invitation to partnership." He gestured to the repaired chamber, the improved systems, the sense of peace that filled the vast space. "Other species sought to master reality through force. You built magnificent technologies by breaking natural laws and bending them to your will. But force creates resistance. Domination generates conflict." So Young stepped forward to add her perspective. "We learned that the universe prefers cooperation to conflict. When we stopped trying to make it obey and started asking for its help, everything became easier." Captain Lee, still alert for threats, noticed something remarkable. Every weapon in the chamber had powered down, not from system failure, but because their operators no longer felt the need to use them. The energy readings that frightened you weren't signs of broken physics, Min-jun explained. They were evidence of successful collaboration between humanity and reality itself. The universe was contributing its own resources to our healing projects. Ambassador Choi provided the final piece of explanation. We've been healing Earth's environmental damage through partnership with natural forces. The radiation cleanup that triggered your alarms wasn't accomplished with machines. We asked the damaged areas to heal, and reality provided the energy needed. The chamber buzzed with discussions as the implications sank in. Species began sharing experiences they had previously dismissed. Moments when their technology worked better than expected. Phenomena that suggested responsive elements in their environments. Instances where cooperation had achieved better results than force. The Mountain Clan's representative spoke first. Our mining operations. They work best when we respect the stone instead of simply breaking it. Our quantum computers occasionally produce impossible results, admitted a Silicon Quartz delegate. We assumed it was malfunction. The ocean currents respond to our emotional states, said an aquatic collective member. We thought it was superstition. Prime Velnuth's form brightened as understanding dawned. The universe has been trying to communicate with all of us, but only humans learn to listen properly. The Trade Federation's representative raised a practical question. What does this mean for galactic civilization? For our technologies? Our economies? Min-jun smiled. It means abundance instead of scarcity. Cooperation instead of competition. Solutions that benefit everyone instead of zero-sum conflicts. Show us, demanded the Kresh Dominion's war leader, though his tone carried curiosity instead of hostility. Show us how to hear what you hear. We can't teach you to be human, So Young replied gently. But we can teach you to recognize the universe's voice. Each species will hear it differently, according to your nature. As the demonstration continued, something unprecedented happened in the council chambers. Former enemies began working together, sharing ideas about cooperative approaches to problems that had seemed unsolvable. The device facilitated not just understanding, but genuine connection between species that had been isolated by conflict for millennia. The session that had begun as humanity's trial was transforming into something else entirely. The first steps toward a new kind of galactic civilization, built on cooperation instead of conquest. 6 months later, the new Cooperative Sciences Institute floated in space like a jewel made of starlight and dreams. The station existed in a pocket of enhanced space-time that sparkled with energies from multiple dimensions, created not through force but through unanimous agreement between its builders and the universe itself. Ambassador So Young Kim, now Director of Interspecies Harmony, stood at the observation deck watching former enemies work side by side. The sight still amazed her. Ethereal psychics collaborated with synthetic logic cores to solve problems neither could handle alone. Collective units maintained their collective consciousness while celebrating individual creativity for the first time in their species' history. The morning reports, her assistant announced. Min-jun's former aide had adapted well to her new role, coordinating between dozens of species. So Young reviewed the updates with satisfaction. The aquatic collective had successfully negotiated with their homeworld's oceans to prevent the massive storms that had threatened their cities for centuries. The Silicon Quartz had achieved quantum calculations of unprecedented elegance by working with probability instead of forcing it. Most remarkably, the Predator Alliance had transformed their military philosophy, becoming protectors who found strength through healing instead of destruction. Captain Jae-ho Lee walked through the station's corridors with his new security team. His force no longer carried weapons. Instead, they specialized in understanding and resolving conflicts through cooperation. The approach worked better than anyone had expected. No incidents to report, his second-in-command said. She was an ethereal who had volunteered to learn human approaches to peacekeeping. The Kresh delegation finished their negotiations with the Trade Federation. Both sides found solutions that benefit everyone. Lee nodded. The Kresh Dominion's transformation had been the most dramatic. Once the galaxy's most aggressive military power, they had discovered that their strength was magnified when used to protect rather than conquer. Their former enemies now sought them as allies. In the Central Research Complex, Dr. Min Jun Park worked alongside representatives from 37 species. Today's project involved helping the war-torn Nexus sector heal from centuries of conflict. Not through politics or force, but through cooperative physics applied on a cosmic scale. The gravitational resonance is stabilizing, announced Dr. Hee-Jin Na, who had joined the Institute as Director of Cooperative Physics. Her original breakthrough had sparked humanity's discovery, and now she helped other species find their own ways to work with reality. Velnath floated nearby, her energy form pulsing in harmony with the station's enhanced space-time. The universe itself participates in this healing, she observed. I feel its joy at our cooperation. The former prime of the Galactic Council had stepped down from political leadership to become the Institute's first non-human director. Her species' mastery of energy, combined with cooperative principles, had achieved wonders that pure force never could. Progress report from Section 7 called out a young ethereal researcher. She was part of the new generation, beings who had grown up learning to listen to the universe's voice instead of fighting it. Minjun smiled as he watched her work. The student was attempting to heal a damaged crystal using cooperative physics, gently coaxing it to repair itself instead of trying to force the process. Her concentration was perfect, her intention pure. The crystal responded to her invitation. Cracks sealed themselves with gentle light as the structure became whole again. The young ethereal gasped with joy as she felt the universe's approval of her success. Beautiful work, Dr. Na said, pride evident in her voice. You've achieved perfect harmony between intention and cooperation. The success was more than personal. It represented the future of galactic civilization, young beings from multiple species, learning to work with reality instead of against it, finding solutions through partnership instead of conflict. In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Choi met with representatives planning the next phase of expansion. The Institute's success had inspired similar projects throughout the galaxy. Species were requesting help establishing their own cooperative research centers. The fringe worlds want to join our network, reported a Trade Federation delegate. They've heard about our abundance protocols and want to learn. The Outer Rim territories are requesting assistance with their environmental restoration projects, added a Mountain Clan representative. They need help healing damage from the mining wars. Under. Choi reviewed the requests with satisfaction. What had begun as humanity's trial had become a galactic transformation. The Institute received more cooperation requests than they could handle. But the demand drove innovation in sharing their discoveries. As evening approached by the station's artificial day cycle, Minjun found himself back at the observation deck where everything had changed. Through the transparent walls, he could see the enhanced space around the station sparkling with cooperative energies. So Young joined him, along with Lee and the other original team members. They had become something like legends in the new galactic order, the humans who had shown everyone that the universe wanted to be their friend. Any regrets? So Young asked, watching a group of mixed species researchers solve a problem that would have been impossible under the old physics. None, Minjun replied, though I sometimes wonder what would have happened if we'd kept hiding our discoveries. The galaxy would still be fighting itself, Lee said. Species would still see the universe as something to conquer, instead of something to dance with. A soft chime indicated another successful project completion. Somewhere in the station, beings from different worlds had achieved another breakthrough, through cooperation instead of conflict. The sound had become common, but it still brought smiles to their faces. Dr. Na's voice echoed through the station's communication system. Attention all residents. We've achieved a new milestone. The collaborative healing project in the Nexus sector has exceeded all expectations. 3 solar systems that were uninhabitable from war damage are now thriving with life again. Cheers erupted throughout the station. Beings who had spent their lives seeing the universe as hostile territory now celebrated healing that spanned light years. Min-jun watched the celebration and thought about the journey from that terrifying day in the council chambers to this moment of galactic cooperation. The fear in those ancient eyes had been replaced with wonder and joy. "You know what the best part is?" he said to his companions. "What?" So Young asked. "This is just the beginning. Every day, more species learn to hear the universe's voice. Every day, we discover new ways to work together instead of fighting." As if responding to his words, the space around the station pulsed with gentle light. The universe itself seemed to celebrate the growing harmony between its children and reality. The transformation that had begun with humanity's simple realization continued to spread. Across the galaxy, species were learning that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that harmony achieved better results than force, that the universe was not an enemy to be defeated, but a partner waiting to dance. Min-jun smiled as he watched the stars sparkle with new kinds of light. Energies born from cooperation between matter and consciousness, between species and reality, between the present and a future filled with infinite possibilities. They had never conquered the universe. They had just finally learned to dance with it.